For I see that you have noticed the scar on my forearm, here, where the skin is both darker and smoother than that which surrounds it. I have been told that it looks like a rope burn. My more active friends say it is not dissimilar to marks on the bodies of those who have taken up rappelling or mountain climbing, for that matter. Perhaps a thought of this nature is passing through your mind, for I detect a certain seriousness in your expression, as though you are wondering what sort of training camp could have given a fellow from the plains such as myself cause to engage in these activities. Allow me, then, to reassure you that the source of my injury was rather prosaic. We have in this country a phenomenon with which you will doubtless be unfamiliar, given the state of plenty that characterizes here particularly in the winter, when the reservoirs of the great dams are almost dry. We face a shortage of electricity that manifests itself in rolling blackouts. We call this load shedding, and we keep our homes well stocked with candles so that it does not unduly disrupt our lives. As a child, during such a time of load shedding, I grabbed hold of one of these candles, tipped it over, and spilled molten wax on myself. In America, this would have been the start, in all likelihood, of a protracted bout of litigation with the manufacturer for using candle wax with such a high, and unsafe, melting point. Here, it resulted merely in an evening of crying and the rather faint, if oddly linear, scar you see today. Ah, they have begun to turn on the decorative lights that arc through the air above this market. A little gaudy? Yes, you are right. I myself might have chosen something less colorful. But observe the smiles on the upturned faces of those around us. It is remarkable how theatrical man-made light can be once sunlight has begun to fade, how it can affect us emotionally, even now, at the start of the 21st century, in cities as one bright as this one. Think of the expressive beauty of the Empire State Building, illuminated green for St. Patrick's Day, or pale blue on the evening of Frank Sinatra's death. Surely, New York by night must be one of the greatest sights in the world. I remember my early nocturnal explorations of Manhattan, so often with Erica as my guide. She invited me to her home for dinner soon after our return from Greece. I spent the afternoon deciding what to wear. I knew her family was wealthy, and I wanted to dress as I imagined they would be dressed, in a manner elegant but also casual. My suit seemed too formal. My blazer would have been better, but it was several years old and struck me as somewhat shabby. In the end, I took advantage of the ethnic exception clause that is written into every code of etiquette and wore a starched white kurta of delicately worked cotton over a pair of jeans. It was a testament to the open-mindedness and that overused word cosmopolitan nature of New York in those days that I felt completely comfortable on the subway in this attire. Indeed, no one seemed to take much notice of me at all, save for a gay gentleman who politely offered me an invitational smile. I emerged from the 6th train onto 77th Street, in the heart of the Upper East Side. The area with its charming bistros, exclusive shops, and attractive women in short skirts walking tiny dogs felt surprisingly familiar. Although I had never been there before, I realized later that I owed my sense of familiarity to the many films that had used it as a setting. Erica's family lived in an impressive building with a blue canopy and an elderly doorman, who adopted a coldly disapproving expression that would not have been out of place on the face of the gatekeeper of one of Lahore's larger mansions had I driven up in a small and rusted automobile. Naturally, I responded with an equally cold and rather imperious tone, carefully calibrated to convey both that I had taken offense and that I found it beneath myself to say so as I stated my business. This had its desired effect. He promptly rang up to inquire whether I should be allowed to pass, and when informed that I should directed me in person to the elevator. I was instructed to press the button for the penthouse, a term associated in my mind with luxury and, yes, I will confess, with pornography as well. So it was in a state of heightened expectation that I arrived at the door of Erica's flat, which opened before I had a chance to knock. Erica received me with a smile. Her tan skin seemed to glow with health. I had forgotten how stunning she was, and in that moment, pressed as we were into close proximity by the confines of the entryway, I was forced to lower my eyes. "Wow," she said, reaching out to graze the embroidery on my kurta with the tip of her finger. "You look great." I responded that she did, too, which was true, although she was wearing a short Mighty Mouse t-shirt and did not appear to have been quite as preoccupied with issues of dress selection as I had been. She said she wanted to show me something, and I followed her to her bedroom. It was roughly twice the size of my studio flat and contained cartons of university books, a desk with a computer and a laser printer, a massive bed covered with clothes, and a punching bag suspended from the ceiling on a chain. In short, it looked lived in, the sort of room one has had one's entire life. I felt at home. Perhaps it was because I had recently lived such a transitory existence, moving from one dorm room to the next, and longed for the settled nature of my past. Perhaps it was because I missed my family and the comfort of a family residence, where generations stayed together, instead of apart in an atomized state of age segregation. Or perhaps it was because a spacious bedroom in a prestigious apartment on the Upper East Side was, in American terms, the socio-economic equivalent of a spacious bedroom in a prestigious house in Goldberg, such as the one in which I had grown up. Whatever the reason, it made me smile, and Erica, seeing me smile, smiled back and held up a slender, brown parcel. "It's done," she said solemnly. I waited for her to say more, and when she did not, I asked, "It being my manuscript," she said. "I'm sending it to an agent tomorrow." I took it respectfully in both hands, resting it flat across my upturned palms. "Congratulations," I said, and then, noticing it was rather light, added, "Is this all of it?" She nodded. "It's more a novella than a novel," she said. "It leaves space for your thoughts to echo." I turned it over, appreciating the physicality of the package, the tape which sealed it, the dent in one corner. "Are you nervous?" I asked her. "I'm more unsettled than nervous," she said. "It's like I'm an oyster. I've had this sharp speck inside me for a long time, and I've been trying to make it more comfortable, so slowly I've turned it into a pearl. But now it's finally being taken out, and just as it's going, I'm realizing there's a gap being left behind, you know, a dent on my belly where it used to sit. And so I kind of want to hold onto it for a little longer." "Why do you not, then?" I asked, returning it to her. "I already have," she said, and she smiled again. "It's been lying in this envelope since I went to Greece." I was honored and pleased that she was confiding in me in this fashion. I met her eyes, and for the first time I perceived that there was something broken behind them, like a tiny crack in a diamond that becomes visible only when viewed through a magnifying lens. Normally it is hidden by the brilliance of the stone. I wanted to know what it was, what had caused her to create the pearl of which she had spoken. But I thought it would be presumptuous of me to ask. Such things are revealed by a person when and to whom they choose. So I attempted to convey through my expression alone my desire to understand her, and said nothing further. As we were leaving her room, I noticed a sketch on the wall. It depicted under stormy skies a tropical island, steeped volcano. Nestled in the caldera of the volcano was a lake with another, smaller island in it, an island on an island wonderfully sheltered and calm. "What is this?" I asked. "Chris did it," she replied, "when we were 8 or 9. It's inspired by one of his Tintin comics, Flight 7. It is beautiful," I said. She nodded. "Yeah," she said, "it is. His mother gave it to me when she was clearing out his stuff." I looked at it a moment longer, fascinated by the intricacy of the pencil work. In its detail, though not, of course, in its style or subject, it reminded me of our miniature paintings, of the sort one would find if one ventured around the corner to the Lahore Museum or the Nets College of Arts. Erica led me outside to their roof terrace, a private area with a spectacular, eagle's eye view of Manhattan, and introduced me to her parents. Her mother was sitting at a tennis table that had been converted with 4 place settings into the venue for our dinner. She held my hand, said hello, and then, still holding my hand, added approvingly to Erica, "Very nice." "Behave, Mom," Erica replied. Her father stood at a grill, placing hamburgers onto plates. It was apparent from his demeanor that he was a man of consequence in the corporate world. As we took our seats for the meal, he lifted a bottle of red wine and said to me, "You drink?" "He's 22, Erica's mother said suggested, so of course he drinks. I had a Pakistani working for me once," Erica's father said. "Never drank." "I do, sir," I assured him. "Thank you. You seem puzzled by this, and not for the first time. Perhaps you misconstrue the significance of my beard, which, I should in any case make clear, I had not yet kept when I arrived in New York. In truth, many Pakistanis drink. Alcohol's illegality in our country has roughly the same effect as marijuana's in yours. Moreover, not all of our drinkers are Western-educated urbanites such as myself. Our newspapers regularly carry accounts of villagers dying or going blind after consuming poor-quality moonshine. Indeed, in our poetry and folk songs, intoxication occupies a recurring role as a facilitator of love and spiritual enlightenment. What? Is it not a sin? Yes, it certainly is, and so, for that matter, is coveting thy neighbor. I see you smile. We understand one another, then. But I digress. I was telling you of my first meal with Erica's family. It was a warm evening, like this one summer in New York being like spring here in Lahore. A breeze was blowing then, again as it is now, and it carried a smell of flame-cooked meat not dissimilar to that coming to us from the many open-air restaurants in this market that are beginning their preparations for dinner. The setting was superb, the wine was delicious, the burgers were succulent, and our conversation was for the most part rather pleasant. Erica seemed happy that I was there, and her I do remember becoming annoyed at one point in the discussion. Erica's father had asked me how things were back home, and I had replied that they were quite good, thank you, when he said, "Economy's falling apart though, no. Corruption, dictatorship, the rich living like princes while everyone else suffers. Solid people, don't get me wrong. I like Pakistanis. But the elite has raped that place well and good, right? And fundamentalism. You guys have got some serious problems with fundamentalism." I felt myself bridle. There was nothing overtly objectionable in what he had said. Indeed, his was a summary with some knowledge, much like the short news items on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, which I had recently begun to read. But his tone with, if you will forgive me, its typically American undercurrent of condescension struck a negative chord with me, and it was only out of politeness that I limited my response to, "Yes, there are challenges, sir, but my family is there, and I can assure you it is not as bad as that." Fortunately, the remainder of our dinner passed without incident. Afterwards, Erica and I shared a taxi down to Chelsea, where a friend of hers, the daughter of the owner of a contemporary art gallery, had invited her to a party to celebrate the opening of it. Could hear our driver chatting on his mobile in Punjabi and knew from his accent that he was Pakistani. Normally I would have said hello, but on that particular night I did not. Erica was watching me with curiosity. Eventually she remarked, "I hope you are not still upset about what my dad said." "Upset?" I responded. "Of course not. Not in the least." She laughed. She said. "You're touchy about where you come from. It shows on your face." "Then I apologize," I said. "I had no right to be rude." "You're never rude," she said. "Be touchy, it's good to be touchy sometimes. It means you care." We alighted on West 24th Street. I insisted on paying for our cab, and Erica led me by the hand into an unimpressive building, a decrepit, post-industrial hulk. Upon entering I heard music. It grew louder as we mounted several flights of stairs, and were immersed in sound. The gallery was a vast space with clean light, with clean lines and minimalist fixtures. Video projections of faces glowed on the blank heads of mannequins. I realized I was being ushered into an insider's world, the chic heart of this which I would otherwise have had no access. We passed fashion models, old men with tans, artists in outrageous outfits. I was glad I had one. Erica was soon at the center of a circle of friends, none of whom I had previously met. I watched as she attracted people, and I was reminded of our trip to Greece, of the gravity she had exerted on our group. Yet this time was different. This time she had brought me with her, and through a glance, the offer of a drink, the touch of her hand at my elbow, that we remained connected throughout the evening. When she kissed me on the cheek as I held the door of the cab in which she would return to her home alone, I felt as though we had spent an intimate evening together, even though we had spoken little at the party. Perhaps she felt the same, for at that very instant she said, "Thank you." I was taken by surprise. I thought I should be thanking her, but I had no time to In the weeks that followed, she did invite me to meet her on a number of occasions. But unlike that first night when we were together in her room and in the taxi, we were never again alone. We went to a small music venue on the Lower East Side, a French restaurant in the meatpacking district, a loft party in Tribeca, but always in the company of others. Often, I found myself observing Erica as she stood or sat, surrounded by her acquaintances. At these moments she frequently became introspective. It was as though to withdraw, to recede a half step inside herself. She reminded me of a child who could sleep only with the door open and the light on. Sometimes she would be upon her, my gaze upon her, and then she would smile at me as though, or so I flattered myself to believe, I had placed a shawl around her shoulders as she returned from a walk in the cold. We exchanged at the end of the evening, and it seemed to me that she lingered at the corndentation at the corner of her mouth. My patience was rewarded. Before I left for Manila, when Erica asked me to join her for a picnic lunch in Central Park, and I discovered that we were not to be met by anyone else. It was one of those glorious late July afternoons in New York when a stiff wind off the Atlantic makes the trees swell and the clouds race across the sky. You know them well? Yes, precisely. The humidity vanishes as the city fills its lungs with cooler, briny air. Erica wore a straw hat and carried a wicker basket, sliced meats, several different cheeses, and grapes, a delicious and, to my mind, rather sophisticated assortment. We ate, lounging in the grass. Not so much in the summer. If they have any choice in them. The sun is too strong, and the only people one sees sitting outside are. So this must seem very foreign to you, then, she said. No, I replied. It reminds me of when Nathia would go up to Nathia Gali, in the foothills of the Himalayas. There we often used to take our meals in the open with tea, and then became thoughtful. I haven't done this in a long time, she told me when she spoke in again. Just read of hang hours. Was it when he died, I asked, that you stopped coming? For a while I stopped talking to people. I had to go to the hospital. They told it so much, think about it so much, and put me to take 3 months off work because I couldn't be myself. We kept it quiet, though, and by September I was back at Princeton. But I glimpsed again, even more clearly than before, the crack inside her. It evoked in me almost familial tenderness. When we got up on depart, I offered her my arm and she smiled as she accepted it. Then the two of us walked off, leaving Central Park behind. I remember vividly the feeling of her skin, cool and smooth. We had never before remained in contact for such a prolonged period. That her body was so strong and yet belonged to someone so wounded lingered with me until long afterwards. Indeed, weeks later, in my hotel room, I would at times wake up to that sensation as though touched by a ghost. Bad luck. The lights have gone. But why do you leap to your feet? Alarmed. Do not be alarmed, sir. As I mentioned before, fluctuations and blackouts are common in Pakistan. Really, you are overreacting. It is not yet. The sky above us still contains a tinge of color, and I can see you quite clearly as you stand there with your hand in your jacket. Attempt to steal your wallet. Of this size, Lahore is remarkably free of that sort of petty crime. My guest is uncomfortable. Ah, They are back. Thank goodness. It was nothing more than a momentary disruption. And you to jump as though you were a mouse suddenly under the shadow of a hawk. I would offer you a whiskey to settle your nerves, if only I could. A Jack Daniels, eh? You smile. I have hit upon a spirit to which you are partial. Sadly, all the beverages in this market that can trace their origin to your country are carbonated drinks. One of those will do. Then I will summon our wait. You are not yet. If you are not yet ready to, 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 you are not yet ready to reveal your bed, 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 ready to reveal your reveal your reveal your